North South Connection Podcast Network viewers and listeners, welcome to Wrestling Warzone, a Monday Night Wars podcast retrospective series. I am JT, and as you can see, joining me as ever is Chad. Chad, how are you?
Good. Always feels like you're about to start the Headbangers theme music when
Oh,
our
with that,
intro
with
starts.
that
Yeah,
rolling, yeah.
with after the Raw sirens.
Ooh, we'll be seeing them soon, huh?
Yeah,
They're gonna
coming
be
up.
early
Can't
'97.
wait. We can get the old Thrasher
Well,
place to be bump.
I feel like they're going to step in for the smoking guns. They're like the guns of the '97, '98 stretch, where they're just like on constantly. Is like the team that's like pretty good, but not really that great. But like they're kind of presented that way because they're on all the time and whatever.
Chaz is going to be on Aaron's GWWE list
By the end of
2027.
Well, we're gonna do Shotgun right when that starts on here, so we'll catch the Sisters of Love in early January.
Of course, all the shows, right?
All right.
Yeah.
I do have the first 6 shotguns on tape VHS somewhere, so I can pull that out if you need it.
Been binging Master Shelf if we want to do live watches of that. Great show.
Still watching the ship show? Was that
Below Deck? Now Below Deck's great, actually, legitimately great.
Still Master in on
that? Yeah, all in on Below Deck. Master Shelf actually has a. I didn't watch season 11 or season 12, so I've been catching up with that on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of contestants on Master Shelf. They got a little horny. In season 11, yeah. So there's there's a contestant named Autumn on season 11, and I did a little Google search, and I got more than I bargained for. If you don't turn your safe search filter off on Autumn,
mine lives on off.
Autumn Master Shelf season 11. You'll
track
see
that. Should we pull a picture up live on like we did of the pizza? Google search it live.
Let me send that to producer Tim.
Yeah, we'll get him on there. Get that pulled up. I'm not gonna lie. I always got Below Decks mixed up with the Star Trek cartoon or whatever. What's that one? Something Deck too, isn't it? I don't know. Scott would always talk about that, and then I always think it's the Below Decks one. I'd get all confused.
Yeah, what was it? It was oh god.
I feel like I'm like pretty with it, but there's so much stuff I just don't really know or get.
Man, damn it! Lower Decks.
That's
the name of. Yeah, very different. Thank you.
Not the same.
Jenny's the same concept. Yeah, this is a bunch of drunk people basically wanting 15 minutes of fame on TV.
All right. Well, hey, Jersey Shore made a whole career out of that. So
yeah, I mean, to me, this is the closest successor to Jersey Shore season 1 because it feels. I mean, authentic's a key word, but this in some ways feels. I like it. The reason I like Below Deck is you have these guests that come on like each episode, so they kind of become like cameos for that episode.
Right.
And I mean, like they know they're on camera, of course, so like they're giving it up, but you get more of those like real glimpses.
Yeah.
Where like Real Housewives, it's like. I mean, you might as well be given the scripts at this point.
Yeah, Jersey Shore. I mean, Jersey Shore's the same way. I still watch it, but
yeah.
That was like a big decision point for them, right? After season 1, like, do we stay with these same people even though they're popular, or do you change it? Because the risk is if you bring new people in, they're just going to try and be the old people, right? I mean, that's like the risk going into it. If you mix it up, it's never going to be the same. So. It obviously worked out for them. I mean, they're still going, and the new season starts. I don't know. By the time we're recording this,
oh my god, I can't believe there's still a new season. What season was Italy? Was that 4?
Yeah, but these are classified as new seasons because it's like a new show. Technically, it's Jersey Shore Family Vacation. So the original Jersey Shore ended with 5 seasons, I believe, and now Family Vacation is on 5 seasons. Actually, I think season 6 is the one that's starting. But so Family Vacation came back. Ready? Listen, to that you're gonna laugh. All right, so it came back April 5th, 2018. Right. So what's that? It'll be 5 years this year. Like at the end of this next season coming up, at the end of season 6, figure 5 years. You want to guess how many episodes have aired through the first 5 seasons? So so season 5 ended on October 20th of last year.
So I'm guessing it's smaller just from what you're saying, but I'll say 50.
Yeah. 129.
129?
They've done 129 episodes since they've been back in 2018.
Oh, it's the other way. They're going way long on these seasons.
They go crazy. So let me see how many were in the original run.
It's like the old Real Worlds, though. Like when Real World was really cranking out. Like, let me look at Real World season 7 in Seattle.
So I'm trying to see how many. So the original Jersey Shore run was 71 episodes.
Jeez.
So they've almost doubled. They'll have doubled it for sure after this next season.
I'm off on Real World. They only did like 23 episodes a season. It feels like more.
So there were 6 of the original, not 5. Yeah. So yeah, it's they're beefy seasons. And the crazy thing is they do them, it's like a week vacation and they get like fucking 30 episodes out of it. It's like ridiculous. Like it's every episode is like a day basically of the vacation, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or they'll split the season, so a lot of them are like part 1, part 2. So like season 5, part 1 was 12 episodes, part 2 was with the reunion was like 18 episodes. So they like break them up, but yeah, these are like 28 episode seasons, 29 episodes. Like they're just friggin' churning them out.
Still hanging on.
It's a moneymaker.
You're like my mom that's still watching like Grey's Anatomy.
I'll never give up on the Shore.
Yeah.
Until it's over, until it's done. And it's
or
pedantic.
People that watch Raw every Monday night. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess you could say that too.
But it's really pedantic. Jersey Shore, like of the 29 episodes of Jersey Shore, like maybe 3 at this point are like, oh shit, like something's happening. Like the other ones are either hyping it or dealing with the fallout. Like you can miss, and it's not. The first season of Jersey Shore was like you had to see, like it was can't miss television. It was appointment TV. You had to be there. It was amazing experience.
Ronnie scurrying away from knocking that dude out, saying you had one shot.
One shot, bro.
Yeah. Top 10 reality TV.
Oh my god!
Of all time.
I wish like social media was bigger for that first season. Like Twitter had kind of just.
No, though it ruined it because like cell phones were still a thing, but they weren't like everywhere. Like
I know, but just I wish I could like have seen the reaction to that live because it was so fucking insane. Like
yeah, but like if you had like in this world, like every time they went out, somebody'd be like live streaming.
Right. Yeah. Well, they don't do it now though.
Yeah, but I think it's just not in the. I mean, are you in the like? I bet in the corners there's some.
No, they go to decent places. They were like in Vegas. They've been in San Diego, Miami. Like
yeah, but don't you think like they have such a big like outside parameter that?
Maybe. I mean, they're going down the street on some stuff like they do.
Yeah, but I don't think these guys are just like walking down the street, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they are.
A famous point. Marcus gives us a famous Ronnie quote. I don't like tests, that's why I didn't go to college. Ronnie, the show has dropped. It sucks. I think I like Ronnie as a person, but the show is worse when he's not on and in full like spiral meltdown mode. Those are the best seasons. Even Family Vacation, the best stuff is with him. And they have Angelina now back full time, who they try and make like the punching bag.
Hello. Yeah.
Right. So, but the best stuff was always with Ronnie. He was just like iconic. He's one of the greatest. And when you think of Jersey Shore, you always think like Snooki and Paulie and Jay Wow situation. But Ronnie is like the key of that show. That show is not as good as it would have been without him being a fucking maniac in all those seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say him. I'd say him, Situation, and Snooki are the 3 biggest. Well, I don't know. DJ.
Well, Paulie D's the biggest star.
Yeah. Like over Situation, I mean, maybe now, but not when it happened.
Oh, not when it happened. I would say he was like 4th or 5th when it happened. Now, post the first run of the show, he's easily like the biggest star. I mean, he packs like massive nightclubs and stuff and makes a shitload of money living off of that because he realized it was a game right away. Like season 1, he's completely different than any other season. In season 1, he's like the rest of them. He's an asshole and everything else, and you could tell he was either smart enough or someone got in his ear, and he's like, "Well, wait a minute, like I can make this into something." And like now, I mean, he just like by starting in season 2, he became like the pacifist of the show. Like he rarely gets into any bullshit.
Yeah,
and you could tell like he knew he could like make something of it. And yeah, Marcus is right. Vinny's been a star through endurance. Like he just keeps fucking hanging around. And I think through being buddy with Paulie, like he got the dating show out of it. They just the Chippendales. He's got the keto thing. God. So big keto.
Sammy's not on it, right?
No, she never came back. She's never been on any Family Vacation episode. She's the only one that never returned in one way or another. Dina's always on. Yeah, she's a mainstay. Snooki left for a couple. She's back. But yeah, no, Sammy. I think Sammy knew it was like unhealthy to be around Ron. So she
Sammy, sweetheart.
Yeah, I always felt bad for Sammy. She was like the Larry David of that original run. Like even when she was right, she was wrong. Like she just couldn't get out of her own way all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, that's your Jersey Shore update. Let's dive into the show here. We're going to start with the December 2nd, 1996 Raw. Before we do that, though, Chad, any news or notes you wanted to hit on?
Yeah. So this is I got the Observer. It's a very pretentious Observer. It's the December
This one,
night. This one's more. I
even
would
more
say this is
pretentious.
even
Okay.
more than
All right.
usual. Yeah,
Right.
like Meltzer's a pretty good punching bag around our chats, and I sometimes feel like I'm a little bit of a Davy truther, but this one's pretty bad. We talked about it last week, though. He has the final poll results for World War III. It's amazing how bad the reception was for that show. So thumbs up was 26 votes, and also like the low numbers. Like he has 142 total votes, which is crazy. 26 thumbs up, 101 thumbs down, 15 thumbs in the middle. So overwhelmingly thumbs down. The worst match poll I thought was even more interesting, where 44 actually said the Battle Royal, 24 said the Triangle Tag Team match, and 16 said Jericho versus Patrick. So French Canadians versus Harlem Heat didn't even enter. And then in the actual Observer, he talks a lot about UFC and Ultimate Fighting, which you can guess. Fighting Samurai TV debuted in Japan. That's a nice shout out.
Right.
But one thing that was funny was there was an article. Where was it? Was it in TV Guide? Let me see here. Yeah, I think it was in TV Guide. I wanted to read this because this shows how much we changed, right? Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. Certainly the most read and most talked about article this past week was Joe Queenan's column, Average Joe, in the 11:30 through 12:06 TV Guide. The article called Get a Grip was about the Monday Night Wrestling Wars. It was a largely critical article, mainly of Milton Bradley and Nintendo for sponsoring either Raw and or Nitro. Queenan called Monday Night Wrestling the creepiest, most unnerving, least scientifically explainable, most downright bizarre television programming of all. Luckily for Queenan, the night he decided to investigate pro wrestling was the night the WWF gave him more ammunition for his thesis than he would ever need, the Pillman Austin angle at Pillman's house. But yeah, so that's one of those things where it's weird. Like at the end, he says he concluded that the two pro wrestling shows supplied the most sadistic, stomach-turning, gross, psychologically discombobulating programming on television today. So we're kind of getting out of this,
right?
But it's still funny how
I
mean, this is our age-old thing, right? That we talked about off camera, where growing up as a wrestling fan, you had this from well-adjusted adults that this was lowbrow programming.
Yeah.
And if you like this,
kids
it's the
stupid,
same.
It's fake.
It's the same like Colin Cowherd line. Like, if you like wrestling, you're eating boogers in your mom's basement, like all this crap. You still hear very quick remnants of it today, but it was more prominent.
Well, because I think today a lot of adults are kids that watch it. Yeah, and so it's like it was just when we were kids, adults that watched it was radically different.
Yeah.
Right? It was like more legit, right? Like Bruno and those so that it was a very different. What we grew up with is not far removed at all from like what we're doing now. Mm-hmm. It's funny because we're getting close to the period where it's not looked at as like for kids or stupid or fake.
Nope.
We're getting to the 3 to 5 year stretch where it becomes trashy. It's violent. It's like that's what we'll start to hear, right? When all the idiots start going in on especially when Undertaker puts Austin on the symbol, like that's like a big lightning rod one, right?
Yep.
So, and we'll get there. But was it Bob Ryder used to do those stupid notes every week, and he ripped on that one big time. Yeah, Madden and who's the friggin'? Why am I drawing a blank? Who's the joke idiot from Phil? What's his name?
Schneider.
No, he's okay. The guy from the New York Times or whatever. The frig was his name?
Oh, Phil Mushnick.
Mushnick. Yeah, he's the big one that rallies against them.
Post. Yeah.
So anyway,
quick some WWF quick hits. Ahmed Johnson will be programmed with Goldust to give him wins on his return.
Okay.
If that plays out. Yep. And then he talks about like the Germany tour, blast off in live wire ratings. Baracus has debuted on the
Yes,
tour, so
Brockus.
we'll be on the lookout for that. And talks about like Mil Mascaris maybe in the Royal Rumble, and Kurt Hennig, they had to retape his Karate Fighters match after he left. So.
Imagine how mad Vince was that they had to spend the money to go back in the freaking
Damn it.
Karate Fighter studios. God damn it, Kurt!
King Tide, get in there.
Like, can you just hang on, Kurt, a few more weeks so we burn off the tournament?
So that was it.
The Das Brockus. I don't think we see him. I don't think he's on TV like '98.
I
Like
don't feel like for a while. Yeah.
he ends up in ECW for a while. Not for a while. I think it's like a cup of coffee. He's in the Brawl for All. I don't know. They do all those stupid vignettes for him, as known as Brockus, like all that stuff. But he, to me, the most infamous moment is him. He's at the Hart family dinner table and wrestling with shadows for no reason. He's just like loves a good Hart family dinner. Brockus does. All right. So December 2nd, we're still in New Haven.
Yep.
And we open up cold in the arena with our opening match. Flash Funk taking on the Goon. Hot opener here on the third. Was it the third week of this taping?
Third
so one
taping,
more him. Gee,
yeah.
It's very stale. Very stale. I can't like. We've been watching this now for since September '95, and we are still in this stale ass pre-taped like. I mean,
yeah,
it's been the same thing month after month for 14, 15 months. It's like we get one hot show, and then 3 burners toward the end, and that's it. You know.
Yeah, I think we talked about it like between Buried Alive and Survivor Series. They had the Austin Pillman stuff,
right,
which was off arena, so that helped. I mean, that show was nothing in ring; it was all. So, but that kind of elevated it. We'll get to this show.
And I feel like the one hot month we had was Seattle.
Yeah,
and that got all screwed up because of the injuries, like the Battle Royal, and it was supposed to be Ahmed and Sean. Like, remember all that, and then that got all screwed up. It was like the one time I feel like they actually built a pretty good taping up was that one. They got all left.
I was very disappointed in the show, to be honest.
Yeah,
like I thought we might have one of these turds come rolling back out, but I was hopeful that it wouldn't be as bad.
We know there's gonna be some shaky stuff because they bottom out, right? I mean, that's when Russo and whoever they finally step up. It's still better than it was. Like it's going to be into January because they're gonna have a lot of time to build to the Rumble, and it's pretty good stuff. But it's like they still were struggling, and that's why they make the radical changes they make.
Yeah,
we're almost there.
This was a bad show. Bad show, y'all.
If Flash Funk and the Goon doesn't get you hyped, Vince welcomes us in. We dip out. We get the full entrance. Vince is trying to get King to shake his booty. Vince is singing the Flash Funk song. I mean, Goon attacks at the bell, goes right to a fucking chin lock, and then like already, Funk hits a pretty good twisting sunset flip. Goon's working the arm. We hear that Shawn Michaels is going to be in the studio. He's going to give an apology about something tonight. Goon hits the post. Funk comes back with a twisting leg drop, goes to the arm. Vince lets us know that Tiny Tim has passed away. We'll get a tribute later. King is cracking jokes. In this weird world of Dirty F universe, freaking Tiny Tim is a player. He's been around a couple times, so it's notable, I guess. Funk gets an enziguri, misses a moonsault. Goon comes back, but Funk gets a back suplex and drops the bomb for the win. It's the same Funk stuff we've seen. Like, he looks great in his high spots, but it's just way too much Goon offense. Like, way too much. This should have been a hot sprint squash, or give us a better opponent if he's going to sell this much. Like, give us someone with more of a name. He just gave way too much to the freaking Goon. Like, at least give us Sal Sincere. Like whatever. At least Sal's kind of been a little more established. I love each and every one of you.
Oh, man. You was Sal Sincere.
I went 2.25 for the high spot for Funk, but.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you crowd my notes. My last note says Funk's high spots were nice, but way too long. It's what it is. Like, he does some cool stuff in here, but it's like 30 seconds of cool stuff and then 6 minutes of lame Goon offense, which, I mean, he sucked in the 80s. Like, Irwin's not a good worker, I don't think. This should have been on Superstars.
Yeah.
None of Goon's offense looked effective. King
just go. Well, I was gonna say Cassidy, but that's coming up at the pay-per-view, so they couldn't do that. I'm trying to even
save that for the big show. I mean, I don't know. Like, they don't have
who's even around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Like you feel like they could have pegged more people from like the lower ranks. Like
Right.
we talked about, they brought in all these veterans, and in some
Right.
ways that helped. But I mean, I think the Goons the worst of those. Even like of
Yeah.
the TL Hopper, Freddie Joe Floyd group, I say the Goons
Well,
the
use those
least
AAA guys.
successful.
I've been hyping them up a little bit. Bring them in.
Yeah, bring them in. I did Sean when they show him in the studio. He gives like this wimpy wave. Sucks. Lame. King, when they talk about the main event, he asks if Roberts is going to be sober. Of course,
Still on that.
it's just like even in the middle of the match, like it looks like Funk's going to go on offense, and then Goon gets a big boot, and Vince calls the insecurity from Funk a what a maneuver. This was just like bad commentary,
Right.
uh, a regression. Like you can't come out of this. It's bad booking. You just can't come out of this being too impressed with Funk
No.
because his high spots are dynamic, but the way the match was worked, he almost had to luck into the victory. Like that's what it looks
There
like.
had
Like
to
he
be
just
someone. I'm trying to even think like ECW. Like there had to be someone they could have brought with him and signed, like just to be able to freaking wrestle this guy. I
yeah.
mean, did they have the working relationship yet? Like, I don't know if that was quite a thing, but like there had to be someone they could call up and put in here. Like it's just
I
Goon's
mean, it's
not the
kind of
guy.
wild they didn't make a real run at Van Dam, like
Right.
either company when
Yeah.
you really think about it. But
He might have kept rebuffing them. I don't. I mean, who knows?
maybe
You're telling me they had to have pushed for him. They had to
I
have.
guess I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, like just the way the matches work, like it almost feels like, well, Funk just got to the top rope, flipped around, and somehow made a leg drop and got the victory. Like
Right.
sucks. Starting 3/4.
All right, we get a quick clip from the tour of London. We see that Steve Austin was beating down Psycho Sid. And we cut to a locker room where Austin said he had Sid right where he wanted him, right in the middle of the ring. Chaos broke loose, and Vince says we'll see more later from the
Yeah.
London footage. I like when they do this stuff because it at least shows that like stuff is happening on these other shows, and that's actually when they're at their best. Is when they're like, you almost wonder if Raw should have turned into a friggin' like highlight show of some sort. Not
Live
full
event.
highlights, but like maybe one or two live matches. And if they're gonna do these tape shits, like maybe the first one of the taping is all live, and then more and more cut in as we go, doing live stuff from house shows. We're live in this town tonight, cutting in. Like that seems to be what some of the best stuff that they do.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff from London to me was clearly the best stuff on
Right.
this show.
Yeah.
It's a low bar, but it was.
Right. That could have worked. I mean, it worked for the Austin Pillmans. Like do some studio stuff. I guess they try and do it here with Sean. But
Yeah.
all right. We go back to the ring as
Oh, did you
yeah.
get that Royal Rumble ad? I had that after this.
Which one was that? I might have just
Oh,
marked it down.
it's
Is that Adam and George? Are they showing up yet for you? I know they're
yes,
coming. Okay. Yeah.
so lame. Oh my god,
Yeah.
these two schmucks
Oh, you'll see a
in
lot
the
of them.
Alamo Dome. It's
That's gonna
like
be me and you.
7 weeks out. Like we'd have to be sitting there now.
Right.
There, it's so lame. Like, oh, don't go to the bathroom. We don't want to miss the seat. It's like,
Right.
oh, just
Like there's not 15 Spurs games between when that was filmed and when the show was happening.
and like if you know the history of the show, like if you're
Right.
smart to it, like they didn't
Yeah.
just pretty much open the front doors and invite anybody in.
Right.
At the end of the day, but still, like it's just a lame. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you're
we're gonna see a
moving
lot of
more.
them.
Oh,
I think they're every week. I think they're actually at the show. Like I think that's the
I'd
payoff.
forgotten how bad that was. It was.
They were
bad.
like, I think they were just like tech guys. Like George was I think he used to be on Mania with Todd. He was like the PA on Todd. Like he was like a
Oh,
character on that
God.
show a little bit. I think they're both
Oh,
like production
Jesus.
guys or whatever.
It
They
was
pull them out for
bad.
this. All right, back to the ring. You kind of jinxed it last week. You said we hadn't Razor and Diesel were gone, but Diesel's here. He's out to face Phineas Godwin. Is this a match right out of your nightmares?
Not a great pairing when they came out of the curtain. Didn't have high hopes.
Diesel comes out. JR's in the booth now. He starts roasting Vince right away. He admits he's in a mood. JR says Diesel and Razor will be the next tag team champions, especially if they get some leadership. And Vince basically says, hey, you could be the man. And this is where we get the Rumble ad. So it was after Diesel came out, but the Adam and George, our first one. We also go back to 1993. We get those clips of Tiny Tim being on the King's Court. So we kind of revisit that after he passed away. Phineas comes out with Hillbilly Jim. They're dancing. I mean, Diesel's just mauling him. King is working in Tiny Tim jokes. We get a side slam. JR's gushing over Diesel. JR's adamant, and Bulldog and Owen aren't on the same page. We saw that last week. They're in big trouble at In Your House. Razor and Diesel are young. They're primed. Phineas tries to come back with some right hands. Razor stalks back on him. I'm sorry. Razor stalks to the ring, roots on his partner. Phineas goes for a slop chop. Razor distracts him, but he lets go of it. And JR calls Phineas an idiot and a buffoon. And Diesel finishes with the deadlift jackknife. He really kind of. I didn't think Phineas helped him at all, really. He kind of deadlift him up, which looked impressive. But whatever. I mean, Diesel's offense was okay, I guess. The squash, this is the squash we needed from Funk. We didn't get it. Ross always simulating Phineas is funny. And I mean, Diesel and Razor, I guess it's like a little better that there's guys on the show instead of invaders, but they should have just eschewed the gimmicks by this point. They should have said, hey, we did that to get your attention. Here's who we really are, right? Like, and just done that. And they would have been fine. It's like, this is like stupid now that we're still doing this, but I went a star and a quarter. I mean, star and a half, star and a half.
Star. I thought this was an awful match. I don't know what we've seen on these shows that allowed Diesel and Razor to get a tag team title shot. Maybe on Superstars they've been running through, but hadn't looked too impressive on Raw from what we've seen, and they've been gone for a while. Yeah. So now that they're all of a sudden getting a title shot, number one contenders.
How are Furnace and LaFon not the number one contenders?
That's exactly.
They beat Owen and Bulldog at Survivor Series.
I mean, so dumb. Yeah, so dumb. This show sucks. Like the booking was just terrible.
Well, I wonder if something happened with Furnace and LaFon because I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't know if they're at the Rumble. We see them In Your House at Final Four.
Yeah, they're at Final Four.
So maybe they got hurt or something right away.
Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's just like last week you did so good, like doing that Shades of Grey booking, and now it's like all of a sudden Ross is a full heel pretty much again, like yelling at Vince. Diesel's out here. I did like Ross calling Phineas a buffoon because he is, but then like that jackknife, like you talked about, like Vince says, "Oh, I don't know if Diesel can get him up." I mean, he barely does,
because like Phineas does not help him at all. Yeah,
it's like, well, way to call out that he's about to hit this hideous looking jackknife because he does. So I wasn't. I mean, I didn't think any of this was impressive. I can't fathom anybody being excited for Razor and Diesel versus Owen and Bulldog, especially with what's going on with Owen and Bulldog. I mean, why not say like, I mean, you could almost have said like, all right, we're going to do Owen and Bulldog versus Austin and a partner, and then said like Austin says, well, I don't need a partner, and do like a handicap match. Like, I don't trust anybody.
If you look at that card, they're pretty much selling it on Brett and Sid. Yeah. Because you got Taker Executioner. I mean, he's not losing that. You got this. You got Merrow Helmsley, which is like, all right, we've seen it. And then Funk Cassidy. I don't know if that's even been announced, but it's like they're selling it. So I don't think they give a shit. I think it's like they're just filling a gap. But Brett Sid is like, I think they're banking on it to draw. And I think they're using the fact that Austin could get involved in this match as like the hook for that. And that's it. Like more than Diesel and Razor. I think it's that Austin will or could get involved. But otherwise, they're not selling the show on that. I don't know.
I mean, we talked about how much they punted Mind Games.
Right.
I think besides Mind Games, and it may even contend with Mind Games, this is the most they punted a pay-per-view.
Yeah. I think December doesn't draw. They didn't have anything set really for it. And now they're going to have like 6 weeks to build to the Rumble. So I think that was their plan. And Sean's doing his break. So it's like, you're not even going to have him on the show at this point. Like, you couldn't throw him out there. Like, he needed the rest of the Rumble.
I mean, you almost could do like, I know they wanted to, and we talked about this at Survivor Series, right? Like, I didn't know they did Undertaker Mankind No Holds Barred on the fourth week of this taping series. Right. So at Survivor Series, they really should have done Executioner versus Taker, and then done No Holds Barred Mankind versus
sold
Taker.
It on that.
Everybody banned from ringside or something like that, and then just put them apart for a while, like a few months.
They do. They do after that match. Yeah. They do it on that Raw instead for whatever reason, on the taped Raw. Maybe they figured more people would watch that Raw than the pay-per-view, so they said, fuck it.
It's an easy fix. Yeah, Brett said, like, it's really just on name value alone because their interaction's been limited too. We got a little bit coming up, but it's not a heated moment. And you got I mean, Sean's basically saying like, I want to face Sid. Like, I mean, they're
Right.
building the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's actually weird that they even put Brett in that spot. Like, I guess they needed someone for that. Like, I don't know who else Sid could have fought, but it
If he
feels like
hadn't
they're
beat Vader, you probably could have rolled him out and made him a
yeah.
sacrificial
I think
lamb.
he might still be hurt. I don't know if he's even healthy. I don't know by that point what he's got going on.
It's a bad. I mean,
You
because
could
you
have done
can't.
Mankind. You could do Sid Mankind.
Well, you know what they were doing on the house show, Loop. I don't know if you want to roll it out on pay per view, but they were doing Sid
Goldust?
versus Farouk.
Oh.
Sid versus Farouk. So.
No, I think they were saving Farouk on TV. All right. So we go to the studio. Shawn Michaels is here via satellite. Vince says it's the opportunity Shawn asked for. He gives it over to him. Shawn apologizes for not being defensive enough last week. We get clips of Survivor Series where Vince talks about Sid's actions. Shawn has no issues with humiliation or Sid using the camera on him, but the big problem he has is Sid using the camera on Jose Lothario. His emotions got him last week, but that's how he rolls. Vince says when Shawn has his emotions in control, he's at his best. But Shawn says the fans cheering Sid at MSG are the same fans cheering his charisma and flamboyance, and he always delivers the best match possible. He takes risks like nobody else, and he's the man's man. Vince asks him about the rematch at the Royal Rumble. Shawn vows to come through, and he's honest. He tells the truth. He's not ashamed of his skeletons. If that means he's a bad role model, then so be it. Some people don't like his hair, his tattoos, or his piercings, but they should try and bring their skeletons to the ring like he does. They'll see him become Mr. Emotional when he becomes the world champion at Royal Rumble. He'll continue to tell the truth and not be ashamed of who he is, and he's proud of it. Again, this is like a weird approach. It's trying so hard to justify what Shawn has become. Like, oh, he's what a true man he is. It just feels forced, like he's out here trying to show us like he's emotional and he's flamboyant and he's hated and this is who I am, and like he just keeps saying it over and over, like trying to get us to believe it, where it doesn't feel natural. It's just like now we've had like two or three straight weeks of him saying the same thing. Like this is who I am. This is what I am. I know you don't like it, but this is what I am. Like it's all right. We get it. Like we know, like you're crazy and emotional and all this other stuff.
And inauthentic. That's the key word. Like he doesn't feel like an authentic character.
It's the same shit we said about Hogan in early '96.
Yeah, I mean,
it was like him and Savage, right? Savage felt real, and Hogan felt forced and fake. And it's the same thing here, where Shawn feels forced and fake, and then you got Brett and Austin who feel real, like next to him, right? Like they feel like they're just being real people, whereas this guy just feels like he doesn't know what he is, and he's forcing it.
Yeah. I mean, I actually thought this was a worse interview than the one he did last week. He kind of was even more goofy and lame on this one. He said he had his belly pierced. I'd kind of forgotten that. Was that how common was that
at that time?
Around your neck of the woods for
I think it was a thing in the mid '90s.
Okay,
navel piercing.
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of. I don't know. Like you're a little bit older than me, so I didn't know if like in high school, like guys and
it was
girls.
definitely a thing in high school. Yeah.
Okay, I knew there was a lot of girls that had their navel piercing. I mean,
it was more girls than guys, but there were definitely
okay. Well, so I don't know. Like he used that. He was like, I don't care. You know, when you ran through, he's like, I've got my ears pierced and navel, belly button pierced. I was like, what?
Like, okay. I mean, at the time, that shit.
Do you have a Prince Albert, Sean? Like,
I mean, at the time, that was more frowned upon. Like, he's not wrong. It just sounds stupid. You know? Like it sounds forced. I do not.
Well, they're still trying. Like their desired result is he's gonna get cheered,
right?
And it's gonna have to be based on his in-ring performance, not what we're seeing.
They should have probably just given him these weeks off. Like, if you're gonna hard reset him, let him go away from him.
You
bring him back
after
the time.
Yeah, you could have even went back to the roots and seen him like basically a WrestleMania 12. I mean, this is this is a bad time. Like we talked about it last episode. This is a bad period of Shawn, and I thought he might. I mean, like I think you remember the reaction he gets to Survivor Series, and then the next thing you remember is like Royal Rumble, him winning. I mean, it's hometown, but it feels a little fabricated.
He's bad,
and then he loses a smile. So it's like, wow.
He doesn't get it back until he comes back and does the tag with Austin in May. Like I think he's off until then. I don't remember him much. I don't remember much of his stuff between Rumble and Lowell. So we'll see, but I don't know. All right, back to the ring we go as Jesse James, the real Double J, takes on your boy Justin Hawk Bradshaw. Double J sings his way out. Bradshaw and Zebekiah come out. King compares Jim Cornette and Jim Ross to Beavis and Butthead for some reason. The Hawk starts kind of clubbing away. James comes back to trade in fist. King says James's new CD is called Music for Morons. And Vince says he has a Christmas tune coming out. I don't know if we ever hear the song. We keep hearing about it. But Vince also reveals next week we Undertaker versus Mankind, no holds barred. Pretty big match for Raw. So we're closing it. We started the taping hot. We're going to close it hot. The Hawk comes back with some right hands, tries a suplex, gets a swinging neck breaker for 2. Vince talks about the European and Dubai tour that are wrapping up. James blocks a back suplex, runs into a boot. This is kind of back and forth. Double J ends up hitting an Elvis dance into a clothesline, hits a running knee. Zeb nails Zeb, goes out after him. Back inside Zeb, hooks James's leg, and the Hawk wrecks him with a lariat for the win, and they brand him. This was plotting outside of some Bradshaw power spots. James's offense is so bland and simple. Like, he seems lost at times out there. I mean, he's got some experience, but he wrestles like he's completely green. It's hard to get into him. Bradshaw needs to do something. I mean, he's literally been doing the same shit since he showed up in March. Like, I guess this is at least kind of a feud, but he's had these weird little one-offs, like he had the Savio one and whatever else, but he doesn't do anything of note. What's his goals? Is he gets no IC title matches? Like, he should be working towards something. Like, he could have been someone that fought Mero on a pay-per-view to fill a spot, like something like that. So I went 2 stars, but it was pretty just basic stuff.
Spend my day working hard on the go. But the hands on the clock keep spinning too slow.
That's how I felt during this match. Spinning very slow.
That hurt.
The minutes on the counter went very slow.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him in a while, so he come out. We hadn't seen either of these guys in too long. I was a little excited to see Bradshaw. Thought this was one of his worst efforts in a while, unfortunately.
He's spinning wheels. I mean, like, what?
Yeah, it is true. Zebekiah, by the way, like, God bless Mantel, like, to get paid to do, I mean, nothing. Like, he went to the
same shit friggin' 15 years after this when he's with Jack Swagger and Del Rio.
I mean,
still doing nothing to get paid.
This guy went to this taping, was out there for 6 minutes. Thank you very much. Gone. Great. I mean, but yeah, I mean, this was all just like back and forth punches, kicks. There was a good swinging net breaker in the middle of it, but James making his comeback, I don't know. It just wasn't very fiery. Zebekiah grabbing his leg, but that's not too inspiring. And I was surprised that Hawk got the pin here. Like, that was a surprise for me.
James, they're already out on him. You can tell. I mean, you can see why he ends up being a tag guy, right?
I mean, they should be out on Razor and Diesel, and they're getting a tag title shot at a pay-per-view.
They've had more build. I mean, I guess James had all those friggin' interviews, but
him and Jim Johnston.
I mean, Bradshaw's gonna transition soon. Like, I think it's soon. I think it's like January, February. They change his up. So
okay, I went 2 stars too. It was okay.
Just whatever. All right, Karate Fighters tournament time. Semi-final action. Todd said it was supposed to be Sid versus Mr. Perfect, but Sid has been replaced by Jerry the King Lawler because he's the WWF champion. He only shows up when he wants to. And Todd then says, well, Hunter Hearst Helmsley got the better of Mr. Perfect, and he no longer wants to show his face around here, so he's out too. So Todd Pettengill takes his spot. We even get a baby whining sound.
Yeah, a baby crying while they're doing it.
Full burial for Perfect.
Oh, my God.
It's like me, Barry, and Josh Richer back in 1998.
This was, I mean, there was a lot of burials on both shows tonight.
Yeah. That was a big one.
To me, this was the lamest, though, with the with me, because I mean, it's Pettengill.
Right.
Well, he's so badass.
So Todd, he fights King. King wins. It's quick. They just at the desk. So next week we get our finals. Finally, it'll be a special Karate Fighters Monday. Will be our championship game, and it'll be King taking on Sable in the final. So I think it's funny that they didn't. Obviously, they had to, like you said, like Meltzer said, they had to refilm this thing. So they were just in the studio, so they weren't going to fly Sid in for this shit. So I'm curious if, I guess, You think Perfect won? Who do you think won the original battle?
Yeah, I would
Perfect
guess
Sable,
probably
right?
Perfect won. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think they would have done Sid Sable in the
Because
finals.
then you could have done the whole thing with like Perfect and Sable. They were in the feud.
Right.
Hypothetically, would have been in the feud together. So
Yeah,
might
I'm
have led
guessing.
to
That's
something.
true. I'm guessing if Sid won, they would have just aired it. Is my guess? They would have said fuck it and just aired just to bury Perfect more. Oh, he lost to
Yeah,
this too. Like so. Perfect
yeah.
had to have won, or else they wouldn't have. I don't think they would have aired. Wouldn't have done this. But
Oh
you're
my
right. Yeah,
god.
Sable Perfect makes sense since they would have been.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. All right, let's get to highlights from Raw last week. We see the end of the Bret Hart Owen Hart match with Steve Austin's antics. British Bulldog makes a save. We then go to London where Austin hits Sid with the WF title in the ring. He attacks him until British Bulldog comes out and he attacks Austin. Sid gets disqualified due to Bulldog, so he attacks him, but Bret comes in and actually saves Bulldog. Bret and Sid then have a stare down. Austin attacks Bret and Sid plants Bret with a choke slam. We then go to the locker room where Austin's there. He said he had Sid beat and the chaos broke out. Bulldog then cuts in and says he wasn't there to help Sid or Bret. He was just out to get Austin. Owen comes in. He says not to worry about Austin or Bret. They just need to focus on the tag title match in your house to keep their belts. And Bulldog vows he'll see Austin later. Owen says stop worrying about Austin. We then go over to Bret. He says he returned the favor to Bulldog and we'll see Austin down the road, but he cares most about Psycho Sid right now. Sid says everyone is sticking their nose in his business. Bret and Bulldog have no place there, but when you stick your nose in Sid's business, you get the champion, the man, the master, and the ruler of the world. Now, this I liked. It was good. It was organic and hyped up in your house in one fell swoop. We had the tag title hyped. We had Sid and Bret hyped. We had Austin knowing he could create chaos at any time. That's put in there. We have Shades of Gray. Is Bret helping Bulldog? Yeah, okay, he only did it because Bulldog helped him. So, like, there's some nice things at play. And this felt very ECW, Pulp Fiction, gritty style to me. Like, these guys just a handy cam in the locker room, shooting footage. This is what I want to see more of. Like, let's go live to Madison, Wisconsin for the house show tonight. Let's hear what Austin's got going on, right? Like, give us more of that. And that's what I meant. Like, more of a, not a clip show, but like what ECW does. I mean, look at their TV. That shit's a month old too. And every one of those feels fresh, right? Like they're showing matches that they had already taped, but they're cutting in live promos and interviews on the fly and breaking news. Like that's what Raw should have become during this time if they wanted to stick to this schedule. And they do little, bits of it, but to me that was the coolest thing in the episode. I thought it was really well done. And of course, it's got all the top guys that like we keep talking about. Okay, the top of the card is suddenly exciting. Here's four of the guys in the mix, and plus Bulldog and Owen in there too.
Yeah, I mean, this probably redeemed the show to me from being maybe my least favorite Raw we've watched, honestly. Like, I thought it was well done. I like the interspersing of everybody. It's really interesting because I don't know. Like we talked about how lame Sean is, and again, like you have the thing that happens where like Bret and Austin at Mania is like the best match in company history, but like the way it's building now, Bret and Sean, and then Austin, Bulldog feels very hot. Like if they could do both of those matches and build to them effectively, or even like and then I guess you still could do Sid Taker, right? But
yeah, why not? You can do Sid
I mean,
Taker, Bret. Bret Shawn doesn't need the belt. I mean that there's like juice there if you want to do it non-belt, and you can still go Sid Taker for the belt. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
Do Sid Taker for the belt, Bret Shawn in a rematch from WrestleMania to prove who's the better man, number one contender match, and then Austin Bulldog because it's building that way. Or, I mean, Pillman, I don't think he was going to be ready in time, but like, could you do Austin Pillman, Owen Bulldog? Right, he's not going to be ready. So, I mean, you could do an unholy alliance with Austin and Vader, or he recruits Mankind to face Bulldog and Owen or something if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think Owen overall has been very good, like with his tone of like trying to keep everything together. It's not campy. It's been very well done.
Yeah, he knows the titles are in the balance. Like if Bulldog's not focused, like they could lose at any time.
So good segment.
Yeah, that's definitely the highlight of the night.
I mean, the Bret Sid stuff's still secondary. So like as far as just for its time, it's whatever. But I think for long term booking, this was easily the best stuff.
All right, main event time. We have Jake the Snake Roberts and Mark Merrow taking on Hunter Helmsley and Billy Gunn. If you remember, this was played off of last week's show. Interesting, I guess. Merrow, Jake, and Sable get out there. King is already hitting the drunk jokes at ringside. Gunn's got his newer look. He's got the black duster with the hat and the vest on. So trying to mix it up. We saw that last week as well. Get some stalling early. We get the usual Jake trying to DDT. Billy bails out. We hear from Jesse James backstage. He's not happy about the interference. And next week he wants a handicap match against Bradshaw and Zebekiah because he wants revenge. So we'll see if we get that. Hunter's in there. Jake is working him over. Gunn charges Merrow. Merrow takes him down. Vince runs through the hole in your house card. We get a lot of arm work from Jake and Merrow. King says Jake looks like Tiny Tim as Merrow gets a 2 on a back batting drop. Hunter shoots Jake hard to the corner, tags Gunn. So now they start to take over. We get a Full Metal CD ad, which God, I played the hell out of that CD as a kid. I could not wait for that to come out. I as a kid, I wanted nothing more than a CD of all the wrestling songs. Like I had my mom call WWF headquarters to see if they could make me a cassette or something of like all the theme songs. Because I used to be in the fan club, and the fan club they would send you a cassette with like 6 themes. So for 3 years I was in the fan club. I'd get a cassette tape that had like 6 theme songs in perfect quality. And I just lived off of those. And then they finally released Full Metal, which was
amazing. Have you looked at the listing on this?
Let me see.
Is that right?
Full Metal, the album?
Yeah.
So I had Goldust. I know that. Vader. I don't think they had Austin yet on there. Was he?
No, it's like what I'm looking at is
that can't be right then.
WWF Champions the album Full Metal edition. Yeah.
No, that's different. You need Full Metal the album 1996 release.
Yeah.
But it has like a lot of 1995 guys.
Yeah, like 1, 2, 3 Kid.
Yeah, he's on there. Hunter's on there.
King
I know that.
Mabel.
Yep.
It's terrible. This is it. Yeah. Diesel Blues, King Mabel, 1, 2, 3 Kid, Goldust, Smoking Gun, Psycho Sid, Razor Ramon, Bret Hart, the Heart Attack, Hakushi, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and With My Baby Tonight.
Oh yeah, love that. I played the shit out of it.
They
you didn't have it. There was no other way to get these songs.
They could have rushed that to production a little bit more though. Like let's see, like
all 95.
Like Diesel. They had to fake Diesel and Razor, so I guess we'll give them a pass. But King Mabel, 1, 2, 3 Kid, like half the guys, Hakushi.
Yeah, they've all been gone since like April. The next year, so they released one the next December, Volume 2, and that's the same thing. It's like all 96 guys, like still.
Let's see who's on that one. We got it's like Taker, Stone Cold's Austin, on that, Ahmed, Mark Merrow. You Start the Fires on that one. Vader, Mankind, Dude Love, Farouk.
But I think that one, what's the name of Austin on there? They did one album where
Hell Frozen Over.
Yes, they did some where I think it's that album where it's like cuts with like quotes in it. So like the Austin song doesn't have like the real. It's not just his song. It's like him talking during it and stuff. It's weird.
Anyway. I Know You Want Me from Sonny's on that one. The one I remember is Volume 3, and then Volume 4.
Well, 4 is the big one.
DX, right?
Big Show, DX. Yeah. That was great.
I can't tell you how many times I crotch chopped off of Volume 4 DX coming out of my.
Volume 5 was good too. Volume 5 had Angle.
Let's see, Aggression or.
No.
They did the Aggression, then they did Volume 5. Oh, yeah. That Volume 5 has that Poutine Pie or whatever. Rock's terrible.
But it's got Angle. It's got China. Who else is that?
Latino Heat.
Yeah, Latino Heat.
Yeah, The Game. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, those CDs were staples.
Turn it up. Turn it up.
All right.
The one Billy Gunn too.
Yeah. Oh yes. Okay.
Volume 5 is good. Okay.
5 is great. 4 had Jericho too, right? So they had Jericho, Big Show, and DX. Like that was a killer one.
Let me look at the bet because
I
think
it has a song too.
It has My Time.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. It has My Time, Know Your Role, Ass Man, which sadly did get played a lot. This Is a Test, Sexual Chocolate, which also got played a lot. No Chance in Hell.
Oh God.
Break Down the Wall. Like, yeah.
Just Big Show, Vince, Jericho, and DX alone in my time. I mean, that's like an amazing CD right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty awesome. All right.
There you go. Download them all on your Spotify. We get more talk about next week. Billy and Hunter just grinding Jake. Both guys crawl the tags. Mero comes in hot on Hunter. Gunn makes a save. They double team again, but Mero slips free, hits a drop kick. Gunn and Hunter collide. Gunn is pissed. They argue until Jake comes in. Him and Mero hit a double back elbow. Gunn walks off as Mero hits a Samoan drop. He goes up top and hits the wild thing and pins Triple H, or not Triple H, yeah, Hunter Helmsley, to set up In Your House, It's Time, as he's the #1 contender for that show. They celebrate and Vince plugs next week. I used this word once earlier tonight. I use it again. Pedantic. That's what this match was. I found it to be just flaccid until the final stretch. It's slogged. Super long opening shine with no excitement. It was technically fine. It just dragged. I mean, Mero finally gets a freaking win. I guess he needed that.
Yep.
So it looks like maybe he's primed to get his belt back at It's Time, but we'll see. So I went 2.5. I thought it was a perfunctory tag match.
2. It was boring. It was the booking at the end, I guess, makes sense with like Mero winning.
Yeah, and you protect Gunn, I guess. You're rebuilding him.
Still feels like to me Hunter should be above this. I thought Jake got way too much offense. Like Jake's really sad now. Like he's cooked. Yeah, he's officially in like Willie Mays New York Met territory now.
I think he's almost done. I think he's gone by the Rumble. I think he's at the Rumble, but I think that's it. I don't think he's there much more.
It's I just noticed it. I think because like the stuff with him and King was so hokey, but it was what it was. Like
right.
This is even more depressing. Like he's main event Raw and like the IC title picture, and he's getting offense on these guys. And
why not put Rocky in here? Like, that would have been a great use of him out of the gate. And he was in this match at Survivor Series. He was with Mero against Hunter. Like, you know, he could fight Gunn to the back.
That's
you know
true.
What I mean?
Yeah. Jake's a bad choice.
Or put Flash Funk in here, like instead of that opener.
Yeah. You could even do the opener with the Rocky and Goon. That would have been made more sense.
And do Funk and Mero here.
Made more sense for Goon to get more offense on a rookie than Funk.
I guess we saw that last week with Sal. I think you have Rocky last week come out instead of Jake, because you know he's there. Rocky saves Mero. And then you set up Rocky as Mero's, because that actually ends up being a bit of a storyline in January with Rocky, Sable, and Mero. So, like, you could have done something where you plant some seeds that Rocky is like Mero's Bagwell of Sting kind of thing, right? Yeah, he's like kind of helping him along. And then he fights Gunn, because you could have done Rocky Gunn too, like at this time if you need an extra match. Like, so I mean, this it would have been ways to make this more exciting. At least that would have been someone new instead of Jake fucking slogging along.
Yeah, that was bad. 2 stars.
All right, let's do our awards quick here, and then we'll move on to Nitro. I mean, I gave the main event the match of the night, but
actually when Hawk and
Jesse James.
Yeah.
All right, best moment I thought is easily the London footage.
Yeah.
All right, MVP I gave Sid. I thought he was really good in the London footage. I like that closing promo. He was in the center of it. He felt like the biggest star involved in that.
Yeah, my like rule of thumb now is if there's not a clear one, I'm kind of defaulting to Austin, so I just went Austin.
Yeah, I think both are fine.
I mean, nobody did anything much on this show.
Any other commentary notes we didn't catch?
No.
Shots fired is just Pet and Gil saying Mr. Perfect's afraid to show his face, and then the baby crying.
We did have Ross on guest commentary, but this is the first time in a while we didn't have like 3 or 4 people on guest commentary throughout the show.
Yeah, that's kind of faded too.
I mean, well, you're not seeing Cornette. That's part of it.
He's clearly getting phased out. I mean, he
was on as guest commentator.
I think he's done on screen, because I think by January, when Vader comes back for the injury, he's with Paul Bearer pretty much. So I think I don't think Cornette does much of anything till the NWA shit pops up in '98. So maybe they just figured he was overused in '95 and '96. I mean, he's been on since he debuted at SummerSlam '93. He has been on a ton. I mean, all that shit with Yokozuna, and then all the Camp Cornette stuff in '95 and '96. Like, he's been a top guy for like 4 years. So he needed the break.
Right.
Shots fired was the perfect stuff. No debuts, no dropped angles. I went 4 out of 10.
I'm 3 out of 10. Like I actually think like I don't know. I guess at this point I don't know why, but I'm expecting a little bit more because I feel
Right.
like they've at least shown like their floor
Yeah.
can be a little bit elevated, and this felt like Fall '95 to me. Like
Right.
the booking was bad, star power wasn't great at all. I mean, the stuff we saw from London was in London, like you said. Like it ain't here, so.
Yeah, this is the lowest rated for me since October 7th, and that was the back-to-back with September
Oh,
30th.
that one was bad too.
Yeah, those are both kind of rough. 916, the go home to mind games, I had it at 4. 9-6, we had it at 4. I had a 4.5. 9-9 was a 3.5. So we had some rough ones on the fall, but we had bounced back for sure. Since
Mm-hmm.
mind games, we were. I mean, since Buried Alive, we've been higher than lower most of them. So
Yeah, yeah. I thought this was a pretty steep regression.
yeah.
So.
So next week, I would think should be better just on Taker
Yeah, I
Mankind
mean they
alone.
did hype the no holds barred
Yeah.
a good bit, so
You got to assume that's
you're
going to get
ready for
time.
that.
Right. So next week, hopefully, go into its times better.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got going on Nitro?
So Nitro's from Dayton, Ohio, at
Dayton,
the
as Maritolo would say.
Hara Arena. It's always interesting. WCW always goes to the Hara Arena, and WWF's at the Nutter Center, so
Yeah.
they always change. Same intro, of course. Tony and Larry are still at ringside. So they start off talking very briefly about Hogan and Piper. They get interrupted by the Steiner brothers. Scotty's back. He's in all black, and he looks pretty juiced here. We're starting to transition for sure into the big pump.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He was pretty jacked here. So he says he doesn't call too many people a friend, but Sting was one of them. He saw what he did to Rick the other night, and he's here to see that he doesn't do it again. Then Rick gets on the microphone, says Sting needs to come down tonight, and we can finish it off tonight. So he basically issues a challenge. Yeah. He issues a challenge. So they and then Tony's like, well, we'll show what happened last week, and they don't. So that was our first production snafu of the show. But I mean, I thought this was fine. You know, I spent a lot of time on the last episode talking about how I thought they were counter programming against Raw. I think we'll see. They knew Raw was ass.
Right.
And you see how they counter program this show. Because I would say this week, hour 2 is more than hour 1 as far as development. So it's interesting how that works. And either way, like this is also an interesting show. Like Dave didn't have much on it. And I will say, like, I don't want to run through it. Let me give Dave's quick hit. So the Nitro rundown is the worst of his debut. Like he's so, I don't know, he's so annoying. Like he sucks running down the show. Like he basically acts like he hates what's going on.
Right.
So that's good. But he talks about the January 20th show in Chicago, sold 2,600 tickets the first day, so that's good. Tenzon and Chono as well, Nagata are supposed to come in for some dates. WCW Nitro was supposed to start on this show, 12/2. He says he guessed this was kind of a
NWO
pilot.
Nitro, you mean?
I'm sorry, NWO Nitro. Supposed to start on this date. He says, I guess this was a pilot of sorts, but no word on the official start.
What's crazy that we're going to do it already.
Yeah. Here's like a very like throwaway line that we can maybe track if there's any follow-up, but it's just like a one-sentence thing. Harlem Heat are said to be negotiating with WWF. Okay.
I think, I'm going to throw this out there. I think they should have went.
Yeah.
I think they could have really been a big team in 90. Like 97 is bereft of tag action. They could have been pretty good there, and Booker still would have had the path to break out for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that would have been good. Then he talks about like WCW Hotline talked about Kimono Wanalea coming in. I don't know for what. And then this is funny. You'll enjoy this. They also talked about Raven coming in, but that was 100% work. Gene Okerlund was looking for a name to use, because the scam about a wrestler jumping promotion usually does well, and hotline business has sagged a great deal of late, down 40%, according to one source. So he made up the story, and someone else came up with the idea of Raven would be a good name to use.
Well,
So
it's not too far off.
no, it's actually like Dave's dogging it, but he comes in at what, 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
And then I'll just read this. So this shows you how like prickly Dave is. I don't know. He thinks he's like very funny in this edition of the Observer. So on TV, they talked about Steen being rusty since his match with Rick Steiner was his first match. Dave's grammar's terrible. With Rick Steiner was his first match Super Brawl, comma. That makes no sense. There's missing something there, which would be true if you ignore that Sting has worked at most of the house shows. Of course, WWF is no less silly.
I'm guessing he meant Fall Brawl. He must have meant Fall Brawl.
I guess WWF is no less silly talking about Bret Hart being off for 6 months before his match with Steve Austin, when their own TV publicly showed and talked about him wrestling in South Africa in September. Better yet, even insiders were remarking how amazing it was Hart could do a match like that after being off for 6 months. So pretty lame, annoying. It's like, what do you want?
It's like he wasn't wrestling a full schedule. I mean, he was still just doing
so that and the Raw run. I mean, the Nitro rundown. He's very prickly in that.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's all the Big Dave. So we can scoot him out for the rest of the show. But yeah, so then we go to our opener match. Guy we hadn't seen in a couple months. Glacier.
Yeah. See Ben.
Glacier's back. I thought for a second, like, did they want to do a reboot of him?
I don't know. What's it saying to me? This push is moving
it's
like
exactly the same. That's what I'm saying. Like, I thought maybe when he came back, I was like, oh, well, they're doing.
Has he been on? Maybe he's been on Saturday Night and shit. Who knows?
I don't think so. It didn't look like it.
Maybe he was
hurt.
He must have got hurt. Maybe.
Let me look. Yeah, it didn't look like he'd been on anything. So yeah, but he's back now, facing hard Buddy Harrison,
who Tony calls Harris.
Yeah, Harris. Back elbow by Glacier. His gear was a little bit different. That was the only difference.
Yeah.
Tony lets us know Piper isn't a part of WCW. We get some hard kicks in front, thrusts by Glacier in the corner. Leg sweep trips Harrison, and the spinning kick ends it like a minute. So absolute squash, half star.
Yeah, I'm a quarter star. Just whatever.
Straight squash here.
Yeah.
Members of the Bengals are here.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're in NWO shirts.
Naturally.
Like we talked about this. It's like, yep, here we go. Like anybody that's an athlete or cool is wearing an NWO shirt. Yeah. And then they show the Dayton Ice Bandits. And I love these guys. There was about 25 of them in their hockey gear jersey. So there we go. Larry wants to throw the Bengals out, which was amusing. Then we get our next match: Joe Gomez and the Renegade versus the Amazing French Canadians.
What a dream team.
An absolutely awful old Canada rendition.
Oh yeah, brutal.
This one was really bad. Larry asked if there's a mute button on the headset, so that was good. And then they talk about this, and this was a big snafu. So, due to technical problems with Ticketmaster, Starrcade tickets didn't go on sale.
Right.
God, what a bad glitch! Like,
I get pushed to Friday from the Friday before, so it's a full week delay.
That's brutal. Now, where did you have to buy tickets? Kroger was where it was for me.
So. It was JCPenney. I believe it was either that or Macy. It was in the mall. I think it was JCPenney. I don't think it was Macy.
That's so wild to think about, like waiting in line to buy tickets, and you were really at the mercy of how fast.
You could do the phone, but you pretty much had to go in.
Yeah.
Like I remember Royal Rumble '94 tickets. We mailed in the Dave magazine. They sent like a thing, or like I don't know if it was only the people local to the show, and it was like an order form. And we filled that out and mailed in like cash, or I don't know if it was even a check. Or, like we fucking mailed in. My uncle sent them in, and that's how we got the tickets in the mail. That was it.
Like when did that end? I'm trying to remember.
I remember going
'92. Would that have been internet or
Rumble '92?
Rumble 2002. Sorry,
I was gonna say because I remember '98 still going to JCPenney and getting tickets to like that.
Yeah.
Well, Adam went to get the tickets to the Foley Raw at the end of 98 for sure. Yeah. I know he went and got them at the thing. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I know both 99 Nitros in the Georgia Dome were still at Kroger. I'm not sure after that. Like, I went to Armageddon 2000, and then I went to Royal Rumble 2002, and I'm not sure on those two shows.
I was trying to think WrestleMania 20. I guess it would have been online,
Yeah,
probably.
I'm thinking because I did go to Armageddon 04. I know that would have been online
Yeah.
because I got that from my girlfriend at the
Survivor
time.
Series 02, I'd have to think back because that was MSG. I would not have gone to MSG together, obviously. So maybe that was online. 02 probably feels right.
Such a odd thing to think about, like how
Yeah.
you used to have to do that. But yeah, bad glitch for them, really.
Hmm.
So anyway, this match, Gomez gets a quick drop kick. Renegade has a stiff forearm, and then they send Gomez face first to the floor and like a huge bump, and
Mm.
they like light him up on the outside. Tony's talking about the Starcade dog collar match and Piper not giving up. I thought that was good, bringing up
Yep.
some history there. I mean, Gomez just gets his ass kicked throughout this match. The stun gun's very stiff. Like, Jock is just being a jerk to him throughout the match, taking liberties. Renegade comes in but gets caught up and stiffed as well. Jock hits him with a pretty nasty looking pile driver. And then Pierre does that assisted cannonball senton to win it.
Tower of
Yeah.
Quebec or whatever the fuck.
Tower of Quebec, I think is what they're calling it. So, like, a pretty awful looking match on
Hmm.
paper, and it was a squash. I actually thought this was pretty feisty due to the stiffness. I went 2 stars. Like, I think this had more juice on it than anything on Raw,
Yeah.
surprisingly enough. So
I went to start a quarter, but yeah, it was fine. I mean, there was some bizarre little energy with Gomez and Renegade. It was just again, it was express line. I mean, they're not even talking about the match on commentary, they're completely ignoring it.
oh,
But it is what it is. French Canadians are a weird fit. They're another team I think would have been better off if they just went back to WWF. I think you had the Quebecers name. They could have given another pair of bodies to feud with like Furnace and LaFon or whoever else, and maybe even put them so loosely associated with Owen and Bulldog or something, like if you want, with their history, like Montreal ties or something. I think they would have had more room to breathe there. I think here they're so far down the roster, even though they're getting a bit of a push. There's so many teams. There's just nowhere for them to fit, and they had the name value. They could have went back and been the Quebecers again. So
Jaw looks pretty old. Like, every time
yeah.
he bends over, his hairline's not looking great. So then we get an Arn Anderson interview.
Hmm.
I mean, this was like our biggest promotion we've seen for Piper Hogan since World War III,
Yeah.
where Arn has some stiff words for the Hulkster. He says Rick told him the toughest fight he was ever in was with Piper, that he saw guts, that Piper has guts and passion in every match. And he said he didn't see fear in Piper's eyes, he saw focus. Now, the NWO took their best shot at Piper, but when they didn't take him out at World War III, they gave him an edge. Anything now coming back their way is going to be a receipt. Piper is more everything than Hulk Hogan. And so he basically says, too, like the Horsemen next week will have Gene says, well, Piper will be on Nitro in Charlotte
Right.
next week. And Orange says, don't jump a dog in their own backyard and don't mess with family. The Horseman will watch his back.
Yep.
Great Orange promo. I mean, you
Hmm.
can kind of roll him out and he can do these amazing hard sell promos. And this was
Yep.
one of them.
Yeah, it gets you excited for next week. We know Piper will be there. We know the Horseman will be there. You know Flair is probably going to be there in Charlotte.
Yeah.
So it's like you're setting up a very big Nitro for next week as we hype Starcade some more with and Arn helps spell that story out versus like if it was just you know Tony and Larry doing it. Oh, next week we're in
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte, so like Arn
Yeah.
coming on giving the warning like, hey, NWO, like don't think you're just gonna beat the shit out of Piper because he's here. Like we're gonna be there. You're gonna have to go through all of us.
Right. Yeah. So great Horn promo. One I'd
Yeah.
forgotten, but I mean, he has like 100 great promos. So add this one to the compilation. Next match, Faces of Fear versus Robert Gibson and Scotty Riggs, a crazy, weird makeshift team. Robert Gibson's chest hair completely out of control. I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that. He's very woolly up top there. They show footage of the NWO attacking Harlem Heat and Faces of Fear from the prior week with Bagwell kind of being a part of that charge.
Yep.
We learned it's going to be the Faces of Fear versus the Outsiders at Starcade for the
I
tag
had no
titles.
memory of that being the title match of Starcade at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So Riggs and Gibson do a little bit of the Rock and Roll Express spots to start out. They do the sunset flip, kind of cover attempt that's a staple of the Rock and Roll Express. Faces of Fear take over, an impressive backdrop power bomb by the Faces of Fear gets a big pop from the crowd. Ming does his pile driver. And then Gibson gets the hot tag and does a little bit of a near fall, but he walks into a big boot from Barbarian, and that's it. I thought this was an okay match. I thought Gibson, like I've said a lot of times on these Nitros when they've showed up, I love the Rock and Roll Express. Gibson just looks old. I guess he's fine as an enhancer here, but I did think Gibson and Riggs kind of got a little bit too much offense in this match too. So I only had this as an okay match. It drug a good bit for me. I went 1.5 stars.
Yeah, it's all about just getting the Face of Fear established to Starcade. But to your point, like they're giving up offense to these guys. I mean, Gibson is a proxy for Bagwell, so Riggs can kind of stay on TV so they can talk about Bagwell more than anything else. It's the only reason it's even happening. Face of Fear used their power a bit, a bunch of Starcade talk all through here. The backdrop power bomb on Riggs looked great. I thought they really murdered him with that. Larry says Jimmy Hart is fluent in 25 languages, which I'm guessing is not true.
No,
maybe one, maybe two if you count like country drawl zone. But Larry's excited.
There's a language.
Yes. Larry's excited the Horsemen will have Piper's back next week. I thought Gibson's flurry at the end was okay, but then he walks into the boot. Riggs cleaning house with the chair after the match was very random. I know he's angry, but like that anger should be against the NWO, not the Faces of Fear. Like that was weird.
I think they did that just to show how tough the Faces of Fear are because they kind of shrug it off. But it was out of place.
It seems weird. I had the same note. Face of Fear just gave up way too much offense given their role, but they've been put on a power clinic. Like when they hit their power offense, it looks awesome. So I went 2 stars. It was fine other than the chair attack.
All right. WCW Saturday Night's back with a vengeance this week. Nothing really big. They didn't announce any matches. They just announced who was on the show. Arn Anderson, Lord Steven Regal, Faces of Fear, Chris Jericho, Rick Steiner, Buckhouse Buck, randomly thrown in there, Jeff Jarrett, and the Taskmaster. So there you go. Then they show more footage of the Benoit versus Sullivan match.
Yes, Baltimore.
I thought this looked cool. Between this and London. Especially because like we were just in Baltimore for a pay-per-view and the Baltimore arena has a distinctive look. So it's always cool, like the entrance of the Baltimore arena. And I did like how this kind of was presented and the footage and stuff like that. So looked like a pretty good brawl. They fight up the stands. They go into the bathroom where the Dungeon of Doom was waiting in the stalls. They do an attack on Benoit. Then they show him beating him down in the ring. Woman gets in the ring, stands over Benoit. Then she kind of jumps on Sullivan's back and has to be restrained. Do you have any more thoughts on this footage?
Yeah, I thought it was cool that they showed it. We don't often get like house show footage from WCW. Like it's almost crazy that they even existed during this time. Like they seem so random. Like it's not a touring company as much as WWF. So like you don't hear about them as much. You don't think about them as much. Maybe because for me, they never really came up there. Like until in a couple of years, they start coming more when the NWO stuff picks up. But they just seem like a fantasy to me that WCW had house shows. And I thought the footage was fine. Dungeon again attacked Benoit in the bathroom. We already saw the aftermath of that, right, where he was all bruised up and stuff. And we continue this weird storyline where a woman steps in and Sullivan listens to her. So I don't know. Like it's again, we really covered this in depth last week, so I don't think we have to dive into the weird behind the scenes aspect of it again. But it just almost continues to feel a little too insider. And Sullivan's weird promo style doesn't help because he's very cryptic and he's like the worst of Hogan. You know, when Hogan gets all convoluted when he tries to explain. Vince sometimes feel like they try and over-explain things in a weird way, and they go in these big circles. Like that's Sullivan. He just like talks in these odd circles that make no sense. And when it's one thing when it's the Dungeon of Doom and the Hulkamaniacs or whatever, where it's obvious what's going on, but for this, it's like you can't even follow what the hell's going on half the time because the way he talks. So
that leads to a straight Taskmaster squash versus KC Sunshine, who looks like Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
Sullivan absolutely decimates some
Oh
chairs,
yeah.
sends him into the railing, throwing water bottles, stiff
Tony doesn't even
kicks.
say his name.
Yeah,
I
Larry
mean,
and Tony don't even know that his name is. Larry at one point's like, "What's this guy?" And Tony's like, "I don't even know." It's like, all right, great. Tree of Woe with the knee, double stomp. That's it. I want a star. I mean,
did
it
you look
was
up
a
who it was?
yes, KC Sunshine.
Well, Sean Casey is the wrestler, but yeah, that's his
KC
real name.
Sunshine. I'm your boogeyman.
Well, it was not a celebration.
I didn't look up his cage match. Let's see. Oh, he
There's a guy
actually
going
did
on.
he appeared in Playgirl in 1997.
There you
That's
go.
yeah, there we go. Not much
And does
for
some
old.
shotgun work at least, and then he's in Ohio Valley for a bit. TNA.
Trained by Charlie Fulton and Brian Pillman. He was probably in TNA Never Dies, I'm guessing.
So is he in a band? This is the Five Most Wanted. Is that a band? It must be.
Oh, who knows?
It says he presently tours and is the founding member of the Five Most Wanted.
There we go. Well, he got his ass kicked on this show. Then Sullivan does give that kind of cryptic interview like you're talking about, like he's been doing. Gene basically asked him if he's a man possessed. Kevin thought he was the best chess player to ever play the game. He hurt him physically, but now Benoit hurt him mentally and right here. I don't know what he's pointing out. We don't see. He relates it back to the problems with Gene. Now, this was a funny exchange where he's like, now you've had some problems like this in the past too, haven't you, Gene? And Gene's like, yeah, I have. So they're all getting into the
shoot stuff.
personal business. Yeah. Kevin says he doesn't care if he digs his own grave, he's going to put Benoit down there with him, and the equation now equals 3. Yeah. So some pretty
there's nothing's direct. Everything's veiled. Everything's mysterious. I guess it's a little more straightforward, but I don't know why they didn't just come out and say it at least once. Like, you know,
right?
Woman is Sullivan's wife, and she left him for the horse. Like, whatever. Like, just say it. It's like they're basically saying it, but they're not saying it. So it's so weird.
I mean, they tiptoe more. Like when we get to the Horseman interview, they plainly say like Woman and Benoit are together based on what Deborah says, but you don't know what the connection was with Sullivan.
Right.
Like, it's not out in the open.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's fine. Like, again, I just think it's like not the best, but I guess Nitro has so much stuff. WC has so much stuff going on that this is like whatever. If the smart fans get off on it by knowing, like, it's fine. It's not like it's carrying the promotion with a smart thing. It's not getting a ton of time. What's he get, 5 minutes a week at this point, like most? So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Billy Kidman, Dean Malenko. Tony talks about how the executive committee has custody over the title, so the U.S. title tournament will happen no matter what Giant or Bischoff says, etc. Good chain wrestling to start here. Larry actually gives a good tidbit of commentary talking about how Dean always keeps his shoulders off the mat. Tilt-a-whirl head scissors from Kidman sends Dean to the outside, but Dean's able to powerbomb on the outside. This brings out Sonny Ono to take some pictures. I thought Dean was pretty dominant on top, actually. Hits a nasty brain buster. Kidman gets a few hope pins with some backslides, inside cradles, and a drop kick. But he gets caught on top. Dean's able to hit a superplex. But then we get the King of the Ring 93 flashback where Sonny Ono blinds Dean Malenko by flashing a picture in his eye. Kidman goes up and tries to hit the shooting star press. That gets a lot of ooh and ahs from the crowd, but meets the knees of Dean Malenko, and Malenko hits the Texas Cloverleaf for the submission victory. I thought this was a fun match. Like, I thought this had Dean looking more dominant on top. Stuff with Sonny Ono is what it is. It's kind of weird because, like, Dean's a heel, Sonny Ono's a heel.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Stargate
I guess it
match.
is Feud and Dragon. I mean, that's yeah.
It is what it is, but as the match itself, I thought Kidman showed good fire here. He's actually been featured. I mean, he's not featured a lot on 96, but more than I remember.
I didn't think he was around yet at all.
Yeah. So and he's looked good every time he's been given a shot. So this was a fun match for me. I went 3 stars. It was very fringe, good match. I was in between 2 3/4 and 3 stars, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I was a little bit lower. I went 2.5, but I liked it too. Larry, I don't know if you caught his line. He goes, "They love their cameras, don't they?" When Sonny Ono's out there with the Polaroid. Kid hits a missile drop kick. I thought that looked good into the perfect plex. I like the finish too. It was fun. Kidman was definitely game. He took a beating. Also hit a couple of good spots in there. Dean's ready for Starcade with Dragon. So it was a tight little match. It was basic, but they pumped it out. Fucking Larry, he would have fit right in the Sopranos.
Yeah, we transitioned to hour number 2 with Big Barber versus Jeff Jarrett. Tony says we still don't have an answer from whether Sting will answer the challenge of Rick Steiner. No NWO either. So that's what I mean. Like the whole opposed hour versus Raw, they had no NWO. So this was more of, I guess, a cocky, like, we saw what you have. We're not worried. So there we go. Tony hands off to Danae for the start of hour 2. You can actually see Tony and Larry leaving the broadcast area this week. It's not as awkward. Still a little awkward,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it wasn't as bad. So that was good. Bobby brings up managing Andre the Giant and Mania 3 to kind of compare to the magnitude of Hogan versus Piper. Bubba gets the advantage to start. Jarrett's kind of alarmed by the power of him. Jimmy Hart on the outside mocks Jarrett's strut. I found that very amusing. And then Jarrett ducks Bubba and does do his strut. I thought Jeff got a good face reaction from the Dayton crowd tonight. And a DDT by Jarrett. He stomps on Jimmy Hart's hand. Bobby begins again speculating that Sting has to be NWO because he's wearing black and white. So we have that. Bubba's on the outside. He tries to punch his Jarrett as Hart is holding him, but he hits Jimmy Hart instead. A really good looking punch. He socked on Jimmy. Then Bubba gets sent into the post, crossbody. Jimmy throws in the megaphone. Jarrett does a sunset flip. Bubba has the megaphone, tries to slam it down on Jarrett's face, but Jarrett moves out of the way, so he misses the megaphone shot. And then Mark Curtis and Jimmy Hart are arguing. That turns into Bubba and Curtis arguing over the megaphone that is in Bubba's hands. And when Bubba turns him around, Jarrett drop kicks the megaphone into Bubba's face and wins. So, again, not like a good match on. I mean, I wasn't expecting much on paper. I actually thought it was more spirited than I thought. Jarrett, I thought, got a good face reaction from this crowd. This is a good crowd, very hot crowd, and they gave Jarrett a good face reaction here. Bubba had some fun spots. I mean, this was very Memphis. Like, it's interesting with Jimmy Hart and Jarrett. Like, as Jarrett was coming up the ranks as right when Jimmy went to WWL. So they never crossed paths.
No.
So these are two, like, Memphis mainstays that have never interacted with each other. So that was cool. And there definitely was, like, Memphis moments in this match, which I like. So I went 2 1/4. I mean, it was a fine TV match.
Yeah, 2 1/4 for me as well. Maybe a little too much for Bubba. I feel we keep saying that, but it's like all these guys are getting pushed, just laying out so much, giving so much offense out there. But Jarrett had a lot of trouble with Jimmy, but he outsmarts Bubba and Jimmy in the end, so it makes him look like a sharp face who can outnumber. And maybe that was the point, right? Like he's fighting the NWO, a lot of odds against him, so he can beat the odds in some of these matches. Is there any validity at all to Bobby Heenan's talking point that Piper Hogan is bigger than WrestleMania 3?
I mean, I don't think so, but
it's a big match.
It is a big match. I think. I mean,
Hogan's never pinned Piper, right? Piper's never pinned Hogan, so maybe you sell it on the clean finish. It's a big marquee match of the biggest show of the year, but it's not.
I just feel like, I feel like from an optics standpoint, when WrestleMania 3 happened, it felt like, okay, like we're at the top of the roller coaster hill, right? Like, Hogan's been the champion for 3 years. Like, we're 2 years from WrestleMania 1 with, like, Cyndi Lauper and the mainstream stuff, Mr. T. Like, we've had hot matches, and now this is, like, on the surface, the last big match that we can throw at you at the right time. Whereas this feels more like, almost like their WrestleMania 1, I'd say, in some ways, where like we're building, we're having the hot match. I mean, I still think at this point it feels like, all right, like whatever's happening with Sting, like that's going to be huge
Right.
when
I mean, is Hogan
if they
Piper going to
stick it.
put 90,000 in the building? Probably not.
No, yeah. I mean, you look at like WCW's house show business, it's weird. Like
Yeah.
but we talked about it. Like that's always lagging. Like I
Mhm.
mean, January 4th, 1999 has more in attendance than July 6th when Goldberg wins the title. Like there's
Right.
more paid. It's weird. So it always lags. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, I don't think though. Like it's that disingenuous for Bobby to compare it though. Like I actually thought that was a nice moment, and he doesn't draw back on his WWF stuff very much. So it was a welcome. Like, oh, okay, he's actually like acknowledging that, which I enjoyed.
Right.
Alrighty, so now we are at the Steiners.
Mhm. Still
They
want
come
Sting.
back out. Come back out. I know you can hear me, Sting. Why don't you show your face, Sting? So Sting does appear at the top, gets a big pop. Bobby calls him the Phantom of WCW.
Yes.
Rick says, instead of attacking me from behind, won't you fight me one-on-one? He asks if he will accept his challenge. Sting kind of stares at him at first, and then Rick's like, well, what do you say? And Sting just shakes his head yes and walks off. So there we go. The
Get our
match is
match.
signed for tonight.
Sting's
Pretty
first
exciting.
match. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't again expect this at all. Like that. Sting was this active. In my mind, he hung out in the rafters until was like uncensored. Like I know he does the death drops here and there, but I really didn't think he was like involved in anything substantial until he clears the ring on that was uncensored or whatever.
He's been in the ring more than I
Mm,
remembered myself. Like,
yeah. I
I
knew
mean,
he had
he's
some of the death drops. I remember Jarrett. I
yeah,
remember Rick. I remember a few of them, and then we got stuff coming in January, February that I remember with another guy who comes back, and
yeah,
like I remember all that, but I didn't anticipate like this, like where he's gonna have a match. Like I didn't remember any of this stuff at all.
yeah. I mean, like he's been in the ring almost every week, so
Right. Yeah.
it's interesting. Outsider shirt ad. The announcers reset as we kind of settle into hour two. Big Weasel chant for Bobby. And right as they start to talk, the NW music fires up. Bobby, of course, goes, see ya. So there we go. Interesting NWO crew this week.
Mm-hmm.
It's Hall, Nash, Six, Vincent, and Bischoff walks
Yeah.
out. So this is probably the most like least star-studded skeleton crew nitro I think we've had in a while too.
Yep.
No Hogan, no Piper, no Savage,
Flair.
no Flair, no Giant
Mm-hmm.
either. So an interesting crew here. There's a very awkward moment where Vincent's looking for a high five or the NWO sign from Bischoff and just gets
Nothing.
ignored. Yeah, gets it way late. So then they kind of look at the announce booth and they're like, "Hey, yeah, let's head to the announce booth." And oh man, I love this way too much actually.
Yeah, it was really good.
So of course Tony, Tenay, and Bobby flee.
Mm-hmm.
Six spanks Tenay as he leaves
Mm-hmm.
in a funny little moment. Eric says he's back. Hall says congrats to the Stinger for jumping on the Black and White Express. Bischoff lets us know that he's actually Piper's best friend. There's a big NWO chant from the fans behind him as they're going through all this. But he's Piper's best friend because he's trying to protect him from Hogan. And he does this by an example of calling Vader a tub of guts.
You remember what happened to that tub of guts, Vader?
Yeah, and they show Hogan beating him up at I think this was Slamboree 1995. Then they show the Flair beatdown backstage. Macho gets shown with the leg drops with Elizabeth watching. And then Eric has the line, he's gone but not forgotten, or is he? So I don't know if they thought Macho was coming back at this time or not. It don't seem like it. Nash says there's
Maybe
only
he was
one.
just playing off the rumors from Survivor Series.
Maybe. Nash says there's only one icon in wrestling, and it's Hollywood. So, any thoughts on the NWO invading? But it's a pretty big moment.
Yeah, that was good. Nash said he reads the format sheet. He goes, "Oh, excited to see Sting in action." That was really funny.
Yeah.
Hall and Nash's delivery when they do the commentary is so good because Hall does like that Like they're kind of doing the low key voice, but it's so dripping in sarcasm that it's so good.
Oh.
It's like, oh, good credit to the Stinger for coming out here and joining the Black and White Express. Like he just said, like there's no, it's just like two guys just chilling. Like
Yep.
not to fast forward across streams, but like on WWE War with Marcus and I were talking the commentary team like JBL and they're trying to do that low key like chatty, and it's so fucking annoying. But they do it. Hall and Nash are just like perfect at it. Just like they're not yelling, they're just fucking talking. But like it's just dripping with this smarminess that's so good. The shot of Vader was random, but it was funny. I
They
thought,
still taking a shot.
yeah, it was good. I think it's you get them out there. We hadn't seen them all night. We're gonna let them obviously narrate the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, without Hogan to cut his promo, like I think it's a good use of them. So why not go this route? Hall and Nash is gonna be, and Bischoff will be good on commentary. So no, that was good.
So then we get our match. It's Eddie Guerrero versus Squire David Taylor. Eric says when we get our own show, the lighting will be better. What's he say? Like the music or something will be better. And then somebody says the talent will be better. So it always starts. I got like a lot of lines from these guys. They were really firing off. Hall comments on Conan doing a superplex. He says we need to start thinking international.
Yeah, we need a good Englishman.
Yeah, need a good Englishman. Then they start talking about Japanese. They talk about like how much sushi that Kevin Nash can pound. So I don't. I mean, there's the rumors with Nash and
they say Bischoff shits on Conan's gear too. This is a bad dresser.
Conan's he's like he's got bad gear, but he's a bad dresser, but he's a good wrestler. When they're talking about the Englishman, Nash says, "Hey, don't forget Lord Regal." And then we get this is a quick match, so Eddie wins very quickly. I mean, it was fine for like a minute and a half or however long it lasted, but it was what it was. I want a star and a half. Hall does say this frog splash is hot, but he can't hit it on a giant size. Right. So
the it was fine. I just want a star. They do say Bischoff does work in here that he's the highest ranking WCW official and he could put in steps on title matches. So he says whoever wins the tournament can get the belt, but they have to defend against a giant after winning as well. So he's still pushing that he's got the stroke and the power. The match is whatever. A little Taylor offense and some, we're really rushing along here. But as sarcastic as Hall and Nash are, they're really in tune with like what the WCW stories are and what to get over. Like they do a good job, even though it's like in a smart ass way of getting guys over. Like they didn't have to talk about Regal, but they put him in your head. They talk about how good he is. Like they're good at that. Even if it sounds sarcastic, they're still talking about it, right? Like, hey, don't forget about Lord Regal. He's the TV champ. We helped him win, but he's a great worker. Like, they're slipping that stuff in there. So it's like they're good at putting other guys over in this role. They're not just like burying dudes,
A couple more commentary lines I had after the match. So Bischoff says, "I'll even hire your brother," talking about Guerrero, like if they recruit him. I don't know if that was Mondo, Hector, who he was saying he'll even hire, but there you go. And then Eddie shouts, "What's the NWO doing here?" as he leaves the ring, and Nash says, "Anything we want." And then as they go to break, this one was very good. It was very subtle, but he says, "Is this the horizontal base we've heard so much about? Sorry, I mean the vertical base." So that's a shot at Jim Ross, like talking about how great the vertical base of Diesel is on the other show. And then Hall says, "We're going to have to start calling you EB instead of like JR."
Right.
I love that one. I thought that was funny. Very well done. Yep. Come back. We see like a scroll of the crowd, and they mark out at the NWO shirts. Then we get our road report from Charlotte, North Carolina with Lee Marshall. Eric says, we hadn't heard from Lee in a couple of weeks in a while, and he said, "I would have thought better of you, pal." Nash.
Marshall just gives it right to him.
Oh, boy. Nash asks if he's live from Orange Double Wide. God. Nash loved putting down hard, like when he does the Horsemen parody and Orange Double Wide. And then Lee, unfortunately, like this was great because I
Yeah.
think this was a throwaway line from Lee, but they run with it for the rest of the night where he says, coming back to Charlotte is like going to Liverpool with the Beatles. And Hall says, you mean it's old and dated? It's just like they're on fire. So pretty
Well, then
basic
Bischoff
stuff.
tells Lee he's got 3 weeks to sign that
2
contract.
words, 3 weeks, and
Yeah.
see ya. So
Lee talking shit was funny, like getting out, backing down. Hall's cue the porn music for the NWO theme was good too, because I mean that was a rumor. I don't know if it's ever been proven that they heard it in a porn movie and that's where they
yeah.
pulled it from. I don't know, but it's either true or he's leaning in on the rumors, which is funny. But
Mm-hmm.
the cue the porn music popped me. That was really funny. Cue the
Mm-hmm.
porn music.
So our next match is Arn Anderson versus Jim Powers. Teddy Long's out with Jim Powers.
Nash calls the long robust.
Hall calls him Peanut Head immediately too. So
Peanut Nash. Oh, he's looking robust.
They completely dog on him immediately. Hall says he likes Brad Siegel's office. Arn kind of takes Powers to the outside, beats on him, sends him to the post. Nash does call Arn a great technician, that he finds a body part and works on him. So that's what you were talking about, like that he still like has some decent psychology and keeps up with the storylines of the match. Hall then says he's sick of hearing how tough these people are. Arn can back it up, but that fat Dusty Rhodes and Larry Zbyszko, if he doesn't shut up, he may bring him out of retirement.
Good enough foreshadowing there.
Yeah. Nash says the first hour was like a Roddy Piper, Dean Martin roast.
With all the name drops.
And then they talk about the guy that dresses up like Piper that hangs out with him. And Hall says, is that his brood eye? Which is God. And then another funny line, they talk about Arn Anderson, like when they had the limo pulled up. Hall says the limo pulled up. Arn Anderson peeked in a tinted window at night. And Nash is just like cracking up like this. That Arn peeked in a tinted window when it was dark outside. He was like, he didn't see nothing, surprisingly. The match, Powers gets a drop kick for the 2 count, clothesline out of the corner, and then Arn comes back with kind of one swift kick and the DDT to win. Nash says good night, Irene, on the DDT, and Hall says Arn could play on his team. I want a 1.5 here.
I went 2 1/4. I actually liked that. That was pretty good. I thought Arn was on point. But maybe the NWO stuff just had me really digging it. I mean, they're great. They've been great.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they're getting stuff over in addition to just cracking jokes. I mean, so it's not just like playtime out there. They're actually furthering stuff. They're getting stuff across. And I like that they always plant the seeds that they're constantly scouting, even if it's just like red herrings. Not really guys are interested in, but they're putting them over and so, we could be right. We could like this guy. And again, even at Arn, there's shit all over him for 5 minutes. And they're like, hey, he could be on my team anytime. He's great. Right. It's like, you're still putting someone over even when you're taking shots.
Right. Benoit versus Regal, our next match for the U.S. title tourney. Somebody mentions they hate memos, and Hall says, hey, send out a memo. No more memos.
Yeah, that's good.
They lock up. We get a USA chant for a Canadian versus a British guy, so that was stupid on Dayton's
good Englishman.
part.
He was a good Englishman.
Yeah, good Englishman. So some wrestling to start. Then they give a nasty palm thrust exchange. Mm-hmm. Regal is a bloody mess off
right
of
away.
Benoit
right away.
So he hits a gusher. The NWO is like, ooh, we told you things would be stepping up when we get on commentary, and here we go, which, I mean, it was. Unfortunately, because he's bloody, we now have to do this real wide camera angle.
This is an infamous match, actually.
Yeah, like I thought it was cool at first, but then they're so wide, like it's disappointing.
Yeah, so standards
because the match itself is great.
Yeah,
like I think the match is really good. Like it's really intense. Like there's a shoulder block that sends Regal down. Some stiff Regal shots, just beating up Benoit. Benoit comes back with a diving headbutt. Hall calls him reckless. They do the reversal of the tombstone. Benoit finally hits it. Regal rolls to the outside. Benoit misses a plancha. Regal places Benoit on the top rope, hits some back kicks, and then hits the underhook suplex from the top rope, which was nasty. Benoit does some more reversals and hits a nasty German suplex. Hall is ragging on the angle and
he kind of just realizes it, or he just mentions it. He's like, "Oh, I just realized, like what are we doing?"
He says, "Let's fire the whole crew and bring in our own guys." And then we get the finish where Benoit sends Regal in and hits a dragon suplex for the win. So really good. I mean, really good TV match. Maybe if we'd had close-up angles, this could have been even like a 3.5, 3.75 match for me. I went 3.25, and it's a very strong 3.25. Just a great 6-minute TV match full of stiffness.
Yeah, I went 3.25 too. This is the one match I felt like the commentary hurt. Between the wide shot and the goofy commentary, it was hard to get really invested. I mean, we did, but I think it could have really been a classic if we don't get the blood, and if it's just Tony calling the match. I think it put this in hour 1, maybe, and without the blood, it hits even more. So I think we got robbed a little bit. It's a hard-fought war. Benoit moves on to the tournament. So yeah, I went 3.25 too. Like I said, it's a pretty infamous match, the one where they go to the wide shot because of the blood. And I get it. I get they had to. It's just how it was on TNT. But
it's unfortunate.
Yeah. So I think we get robbed of what could have been a potential, if nothing else, like a real gem. But
yeah, I mean,
a hidden gem for us, given the grades. But.
Yeah, I mean, it possibly could have been one of the best TV matches we've seen in '96. It could have been up there with Dean versus Ray.
Yeah.
So it was good. Gene interviews the Horsemen. This was a heck of a promo here. So Gene's talking about the momentum the Horsemen have, and he quotes Halloween Havoc. I'm like, that was 6 weeks ago. Easy, Gene. He says Orange says last week he was racked, and this week he gets to drive someone's head to the mat. You gotta love it. He says Lex isn't a quitter or coward, but the Horsemen are refocusing and redirecting. If you want somebody to lead WCW, they're there to lead the way, take charge. But then he says we're missing one key member. So he asks Benoit where Woman is. Benoit says she's taking care of Horseman business. Someone on commentary, I couldn't tell who it was, but someone said she's shopping right as he says that. Benoit says Woman is as much a horseman as anyone else. Mongo then talks about
this made no sense.
Yeah, he was like, teams worried about their own personal agenda. It leads to dissension. So
should have been a dynasty, but we weren't getting the ego.
There we go. So some more, I guess, Bears analogy here. Then Deborah gets on the mic, and she's got a lot to say tonight. So she says Nancy. So she name drops Woman as Nancy in the locker room, talks about how great Chris is and cute Chris is. She's tired of her cheap perfume that she's always wearing because Chris loves it. Deborah says the way you deal with it is you rise above it. So
makes no sense. And then she goes, Dissension is listening to Nancy every week talking about how that makes no sense at all.
So Eric on commentary is like, she's too much. They're kind of eating it up, them going after each other. But at the end of the day, it looks like they shake hands and seem to be kind of on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, Arn tells Benoit, he said, you were handpicked. We're proud of you. If you give me your word that Woman's good, then we're good. So there's a lot going on, a lot of irons on the fire for the Horsemen right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that Benoit and Woman are kind of catching shit for this relationship from everyone. It's like they're basically saying, why isn't she here? And is it because you distracted too, right? With all this going on, and hey, we're still dealing with Sullivan because of you. So what's up?
Then our semi-main event, I guess, Rocco Rock versus Lex Luger. We saw him beat Johnny Grudge a couple of weeks ago. So here we go. Hall and Nash have to admit Lex is red hot. They say it's a respect thing. Grunge helps to take over for the match for Rocco Rock as they go to the outside. And then we get this great exchange where Eric says, we're not wanting to put WCW out of business. We're fine with them being a promotion. Just NWO can be number 1 wrestling promotion in the world, and WCW can be number 2.
That was their plan.
Then Nash says, throw in one of those Japanese companies, and they can be number 3. Or no, Hall actually said that. Right. And then Nash says ECW number 4. and they all kind of crack up. Eric says, I don't think so. You got $3 on you. And then Hall says the sweet thing is you could play bingo too, which is just
bury them both.
I mean, it's a burial line, but
yeah.
It was great. Like
I
just
mean, they're
the
on top, right? They
chemistry.
can talk shit. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, just
it's
the
yeah,
chemistry. Like this is like your Twitter like
right.
mic drop before Twitter.
Yeah,
Like if this was nowadays, you'd have that GIF of like the guys go, "Ooh," or whatever
right.
that you see all the time. Like, I mean, that's what this was. He was
Yeah.
ducking, but they were rolling. It was just great. Like the way Hall says, "Hey, the sweet thing is you can play bingo too." Like, just a great line. Like, pretty hilarious. So Rock misses a charge. Luger comes back with a forearm. I thought this match had too much offense from Rocco Rock. Him and Grunge were annoying throughout the match. We got a "We Want Sting" chant. Grunge trips up Lex again at the very end. He holds him on the apron, but Lex moves out of the way. Rock runs into Grunge, and then Lex mercifully racks Rocco Rock, and that's it. So a disappointing match, 1 star. I did like at the end where Grunge gets in the ring after the match, and like Lex from the rack position throws Rocco Rock onto Johnny Grunge.
Yep.
That looked cool, but yeah, I mean, as a match, it was nothing. But actually, I thought a little detrimental to how hot Luger is
Hmm.
because Rock got a decent bit of offense in.
Again, yeah, it's been an epidemic across both shows with this. This should have been Luger crushing him, or give us someone bigger, right? We've been seeing big guys battling Luger, which is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
I love that Hall always references the loaded forearm.
yeah. He said he's got a steel plate in there, right? Yeah,
He's WF 93 to the death. But again, the Star got very little offensive wins. That's been the tale of the night. A star and 3/4 for me. Luger's super over. Bischoff again more hints. Like he says, I'm happy to be back in my chair. I want to do this more often. So leading you to think, yes, they may do
mm-hmm.
an NWO show where he's the lead guy back in the booth. They're clearly still planning on it, hinting it that way. So, but Luger's just been rolling. He's gonna
Yep,
roll until they're ready to give him something big.
right. Time for our main event. Nash lets us know he flew a plane smaller than Scott Steiner here to Dayton. Hall makes fun of Steiner's collar. Sting comes out with no music, just kind of walks down. He throws the bat down and then turns around. And then Rick immediately decks him, throws him to the outside of the ring. Scott throws Sting back in the ring. Rick fires away but misses one shot and then gets a Scorpion Death Drop. So we're like 30 seconds into the match. Sting hits the
Yep.
Scorpion Death Drop. Sting then grabs the bat. And he basically does with the bat to Rick Steiner. Like Scott's in between him and Rick. He kind of moves Rick or Scott out of the way with the bat, and then does the same thing with the bat to Rick that he did to Lex Luger a couple of weeks ago, where he pushes him forcibly with the bat back, but then hands the bat to Rick and turns around. Now it looks like Rick Steiner's going to take a swing at him,
Yep.
but Scott Steiner steps in front of him. Scott then throws the bat down and everyone kind of walks away. Now, all this is going on like on commentary. They're kind of like, oh, what's the Stinger doing? So then Sting kind of wanders up the aisleway and they're like, oh, get the contract ready, Eric.
Yep.
He's
Here he
ready to
comes.
sign on
Here he
the
comes.
dotted
Yeah.
line. So Sting gets to the top of the entranceway. He has his bat and he points at the outsiders and Eric and then just kind of walks away. And I thought the expression that the outsiders give here is very good
Mm-hmm.
because you can tell, like, their acting was good because you could tell, like, they're a little, we don't know what's going on, or,
Right. Right.
Eric even says, like, what is that? But they kind of play it all cool. Like, immediately they clip to the front of the announce booth when Sting walks away. And Eric's like, well, we still got him. And Hall's like, yeah, it's still a done deal and stuff like that. So I like the way this was played off. Sting kind of walks up the aisle into the crowd, and that's how the show ends
Yeah. They
with
show off
the
the new outsider
outsiders.
shirt.
Yeah. They basically shill their shirt. But I thought this is a cool closing angle.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't rank it as a match because it's really not.
Yeah.
But I thought there was enough here that you didn't feel like you were cheated.
No, definitely not.
Like so I thought this was actually a pretty neat like development thing that again I didn't really remember happened. So I thought this was really good.
Yeah, no, I liked it a lot too. And making Sting in the main event made sense, like having this close the show, especially like you said, we don't have any other stars here, so who else is going to really close us out? So you do this big angle. Scott's back, so that's good. So you kind of get the signers reset. No, I thought it was really well done overall. I like the teases. I thought it was kind of an intense segment. There's more mystery around it, even though Sting finally gets involved. The Steiners are looking to step up as leaders as well. So, we'll get to my grade in a minute. Like I thought overall, I thought it was a low key weak Nitro. Like I think we talked a lot about the outsiders on commentary. It was entertaining, but I don't think we accomplished a lot. Like I think this is one where if this one didn't exist, or if you're watching and you want to skip a couple, like if you skip this, you might miss some entertainment, right, out of the outsiders. But I don't think you're missing much development. It's really setting up next week, and you're going to see the Sting thing next week a million times probably. So it's like this is really one that didn't have a lot of long-term drive into the storyline. So you may it's just a blip on the path to Starcade. Again, it's not a bad episode by any means. It's just the bar is high, and this felt like a bit of a snoozer that you could kind of take off if you wanted to. If they didn't have the outsiders come out and do the commentary, it definitely would have been much worse. Like they completely carry the second hour along with the Benoit match, but and the Sting thing again was really good. So it's still a very good show. I thought it was a weaker effort overall from them, and I think the outsider stuff masked a lot of that.
All right, ready to get in our awards?
Yeah, I think we're agreed on match of the night is Benoit Regal.
Yep.
Moment I went the Sting confrontation.
Yep.
All right, MVP is very clearly the outsiders.
Yep.
I think we hit on pretty much every commentary line possible. Shots fired. We had the ECW kind of cracks in there in the top 5 promotions, and then
Vader.
the clip of Hogan beating up Vader.
Yep.
I'm shocked actually we didn't get more with them in the booth, like more shots at WWF, but may have kind of moved on overall from it. But you think we would have gotten more?
I mean, there's the Ross one too, but
the Ross one. Debuts we had. I don't think we had seen Hardy Harrison yet, had we?
Yeah, we've seen him. We haven't seen Casey Sunshine. Yeah.
Road Report was Charlotte. And final grade, I went 5.5. So again, I liked it as a show. It was a good over average show, but it was missing the importance, and the crowd and the outsiders definitely carried it. I think it would have been sagging much more without that. But to me, those were the highlights along with the Sting stuff.
I went 6 out of 10. I thought it was a better show than last week. I do think it's a lot of entertainment, but also say I thought the matches were better. Even the ones you wouldn't think, I thought they were pretty spunky. So I was actually a little surprised. Like I kind of thought the show wouldn't be very good.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't think it was great, but for what
they carried it. The commentary carries it. I mean, the outside that was like really, really entertaining.
For what it was, I thought it was a good show. Like good crowd too. This is what I talked about a couple months ago. I think this is another like heat check episode where it's a very inconsequential episode, probably in the scheme of things, but it's still good. The crowd's still hot, so they're still rolling.
All right, Matt. Let's go to our combo awards. Best show, obviously Nitro.
Yeah, Nitro.
Benoit Regal, best match.
Yep.
Sting confronting the Steiners.
Yep.
Better commentary, obviously Nitro.
Yep.
And the Outsider stars.
Yep.
So clean sweep for Nitro tonight.
Yep. And then the ratings were a little more dominant. Pretty good rating for Nitro, actually. Last couple of weeks they were at a 3.2 and a 3.1. This week they're up to a 3.4. Which is actually their best rating to the night after Starcade. So this is the best rating they get. It's a little surprising the next week with the hype they've done for Charlotte.
Yeah, with Piper. Yeah.
But yeah, and Raw actually was up a little bit from a 2.1 to a 2.3. So 1.1.
We should always prep this. What was the Monday night game?
Oh yeah.
I
know. We gotta start looking at that.
Well, they're almost done probably with the season, but let's see. So 12-296 was Niners crushed Atlanta.
Yeah, so that is not I mean, the Falcons in 96 were not very good.
Right. So maybe that helps the bump a little bit here on both sides. Next week sucks too. Oakland kills Kansas City. December 16th, Miami barely beats Buffalo. And then the last one is San Fran and Detroit. So
Falcons went 3-13. It's crazy they were on Monday Night Football.
Well, they were good the year before. Weren't they in the playoff next year?
Yeah, I think 95 they were like 9-7. Yeah, they lost to the Packers. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, so that probably helped football kind of not being the best matchup, especially Nitro if people are turning off.
Maybe. I mean, I feel like Nitro's kind of settled in. It's
Yeah.
more. I mean, they both have now. It's really when we can look. I mean, Raw has a couple of rough episodes around the holidays. We'll have to look, but
Right.
it gets a little rough there. But we'll see.
Yeah. Into 97 will be the key.
And then you see, like, I mean, we're a long way away, but we referenced it earlier. But you can see, like, when Vince has the freak out
Right.
after that Raw, when you look at the ratings, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
It's real bad, right? It's like a
it's
one
bad.
something, right? It's like
1-9.
yeah.
So they're not in the ones except for the 2 holiday weeks
Right.
ever. Like they were there for the 10-14-96 night Raw. They were 1.8, which was an awful rating. And that's the only time they've been in the ones that's been non-holiday since we started the show, I believe. 1-9 on the 9/25.
So the
So
freak out,
it was very
freakout's not
rude.
Germany, right? It's it's
Well, the 3-3 Raw, I think, is the
that's the
Germany
Germany one, yeah.
show. So the next one, and then when is the South Africa one?
That's like in April, I think. So I think they had already kind of changed.
Okay. Well, the Germany Raw is a bad rating. I mean, that's an awful rating. I would say anything now, and I think it's because we'll see, like, WCW does really good with their ratings, of
Right.
course, but there's a weird thing that happens in February, or kind of bearing the lead, but there's a weird thing that happens in February where it seems like the gap's lessening a little
Yeah.
bit. Because right now, WCW is consistently beating them by over 1 point. Like if
Well, I
it's
don't know how much
less
the
than 1
lost
point.
my smile stuff and everything like pissed people off. Like it's possible they were kind of getting reinvested after the Rumble with all the stuff on top. Then Sean forfeits the belt and you know whatever. So maybe that like doesn't help, but
Yeah,
because that's only a couple weeks before that Germany Raw, and
right.
then but I don't think the Russo switch is until full on. I think it's the South Africa one. It's a full Russo swap. They changed the feel and look after Germany, but I think it's Russo is South Africa, I believe.
We'll track it, but just something to keep in mind.
All right, so we'll be back in 2 weeks with December 9th. That'll be the go home for its time. So we'll look forward to that. Check out everything in North South Connection. Both you got to check everything. Honestly, just go to northsouthconnection.com because you'll get everything there, either video or audio. Because we're going to be doing some stuff on the YouTube channel that may not come over to audio, may just be video only. So keep an eye out for that. But all the big shows will be both, whether it's Warzone, No Holds Barred, War. We're doing that stuff on both for right now. So check out, subscribe on the audio feed, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on the website, Instagram, TikTok for Aaron's figure reviews and beyond. Those are great. Instagram. So, I mean, we're everywhere. Just check us out. We appreciate all the support. Napalm, smell it. We're out.